Check. Check.
Check. Check.
Check.
Check. Check. Check.
Check.
Check.
Check. Check. Check. Check. Player. That's my boy, man. That's player. Yeah, go ahead.
Now he thinks you're gonna play with him.
Okay.
Hi, baby.
All right. My intro. Beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Who Can Relate. We're back 2 weeks in a row. It seems like a huge accomplishment.
I thought you meant me 2 weeks in a row. I was like,
sadly. No, honey. It's been a little while since you've graced us with your beauty and brains. All right, this week. Actually, let me a little bit further back for the people who, if you're new here, welcome. What took you so long? This show is all about people discovering their higher selves through adversity, vulnerability, with a big underline under that word, and
self-love.
Self-love. She watches.
I watch.
In this week's episode, we are going to get a little bit personal.
Let's get.
Yeah, I was like, there's a song, and it like came to me halfway as I was saying that word. You're thinking of Let's Get Physical. What?
Oh, wait, sorry.
Damn, Shannon, it's PG over here. Shit.
Wait, it's not sexual.
It's physical.
Oh, you're right.
Anyways, we're going to be taking a little bit of a deep dive into some recent developments in our marriage. On a serious note, it was a serious problem for a while, and we've just kind of identified the root of it and are really excited that we are aware of it now and ready to put some work in. So we're going to be updating you on the last 2 therapy sessions we've had with our therapist about this said problem. And we have a treat today. We have the one and only Miss Lauren Morrison really gracing us with her presence because she is booked and busy right now. Her and Chris, her husband, just bought a new house. They're moving. There's a lot going on, so I'm just grateful that she's able to come on here for a little bit and really help us out because, well, we'll explain why a little bit later. So this first half of the episode is going to be Shay and I again talking about our developments. We'll bring Lauren on to discuss with her and hopefully get some solutions. And then the end of the episode, Shay and I will just kind of come back on and recap of what just went down. But before we begin, the quote of the day, as I do not have one off the top of my mind, but this is the perfect opportunity to give the first little intro to the Who Can Relate merch.
That is the perfect
now,
opportunity.
Today's quote of the day, if you are watching, you're welcome. If you're listening, stay tuned for the merch drop. But today's quote of the day, let's go old school. You repeat
what you don't repair.
You repeat what you don't repair. That was one of the main quotes that I wanted on some type of merch that I wanted to create because it's something I live by, stand by. A lot of that stems from.
This one too.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. Vanna White's very excited. Hold on, Vanna. You repeat what you don't repair, again, is really meaningful to me because mainly for just not repeating any of my childhood trauma down to my children. Trying to break this generational curse and not repeating that, trying to repair it. So let's just go with today's quote of the day being you repeat what you don't repair. Here's the shirt. We have plenty more options to come, which another one of my favorite quotes, our lovely model Shay here is modeling for us.
Control what's in your control.
Control what's in your control. Crop top in for the ladies. We got a long sleeve for you. Got a t-shirt.
Also here, there's mindset shift. There's like a beautiful little rose, the podcast symbol.
Yeah.
And of course,
Who Can Relate. So I got the crop top for ladies. There's a women's t-shirt. There's a women's long sleeve. There's actually a crop top women's long sleeve as well. Got a whole men's situation going. So it's going to be dope. Website should be
color
out.
Options.
Yeah, tons of color options. I think I have 6 different designs, and they're all based on quotes.
He has literally been working on this for, I don't even know how long, tireless hours, back and forth with designers. He literally put a lot of his heart and soul in it. The quality of material is on point.
I'm
Very
excited.
proud of you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to get this in everybody's hands and on their bodies because it's gonna be really cool. So stay tuned for that. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about the main topic here. As the title of this episode says, and this is why you clicked on it, my wife resented, kind of still does resent me.
Working through it.
We're working through it. So the resentment stems from financial resentment as we sit here right now. A little bit of backstory on that. Thankfully, I've been able to have a very successful career in what I do in modeling. However, I have a very unsuccessful financial track record with either saving, investing, paying off things, etc. Managing, etc. You name it. Not to blame anybody or make excuses. However, I was repeating a lot of what I saw in my mother who raised me and not repairing. And here I am today repairing. However, along the way of our relationship, a lot of things started to come to surface with my bad financial habits. And I guess I'll let you maybe take it from here, honey.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, right. Where to begin with this?
Where to start? I mean, I would probably start at the first moment I realized your financial situation. Yeah. And unfortunately, it was during our wedding planning. If most of you guys have, I don't know if you've ever talked about what happened with our dog, but in the midst of us planning our wedding, our dog broke his leg, and that came with, we didn't have pet insurance. It came with a pretty hefty bill. Yeah. And that was probably when I discovered his financial
hardships. Well, not even.
Not even, I wouldn't say hardship.
Stupidity.
It was more,
stupidity.
I was going to say your health with your finances, like your overall health.
Oh, it was very poor health.
Your finances. Like, I knew he made good money, but like we know, I think actually Shaq has said this before, it's not how much you make, it's how you can manage it.
Shout out to Shaq.
Something I do remember.
First ever quote on the podcast from Shaq. Okay.
It's not exactly those words, but okay, I remember watching like a video where he talked about that. Okay. And it's so true. I feel like I stand by that. Like, you and I could relatively make the exact amount, but in the end I could have more to show for it because of how I manage it.
Sure.
And so during the whole incident with our dog and having to put, that hefty bill on a credit card, and finding out that during our wedding planning, my soon-to-be husband had no room on his credit cards and also didn't have the cash to front it, I was like, what is happening? Like, how do you not? And, we dived into that, and I didn't realize that was going to ever lead into what it is now. And I thought I was working through it by just trying to understand him and that side of it. Gosh, there's so many details in between because, prior to that, when he proposed, my whole suggestion was for us to have a longer engagement. One, I felt like we got engaged fairly quickly. I logically was thinking like financially it would be better if we can, try to really prepare ourselves for this kind of expense. And he was very much opposed to that. And where I felt like fast forward to when we're actually in, the parts of planning the wedding and paying for things, I felt like I was majority the one carrying that financial burden, and then on top of the dog as well. So I think over the years I have it started with that and it continued to build. And even though the issue with his finances has been surfaced and addressed, and I didn't really see a prominent change behind it. I felt like he was now aware, but okay, where's the action that was being applied? And I came up with so many different ways of him being able to contribute financially, and they would start where he would do them, and then it would fall off, and then it was also uncomfortable for me because now I'm his wife and I'm, asking for financial things, and anybody that knows me knows that I have a very hard time. I'm such a giver, and it's hard for me, but I felt like I had to continue to remind myself that these were the lessons that I was teaching him, and it wasn't, just me asking him to give me money, because I had a little bit of, if I'm being honest, a little bit of shame behind that, because I'm like, I'm now your wife. I'm supposed to be the strength where you're weak and all of that. But I felt like you weren't learning the lesson. So it was hard for me to continue to give because I wanted you to learn the lesson. I wanted to be able to build the trust behind that part of you.
Yeah, it was probably hard for you to find that balance between helping and enabling. And
exactly.
Yeah, and it was hard for me to be on that side of things. Whereas in the past, I've been the breadwinner, if not making the same in a relationship. And then the last couple, I've definitely been the breadwinner, and I just never had the adulting, for lack of a better word, responsibilities that I had endured with you. I was renting. It was my place. There was no wedding planning. There was no major purchase, planning. Vacations were easy to pay for, but this was like, we had a $15,000 plus bill from Chicago's incident and breaking his leg. We had a very hefty, wedding, expense that we endured. So there was just things that I wasn't really used to. And at the same time, I had lost one of my biggest clients in my career, a client that made me six figures on their own. And so it was like one thing after another, timing wise, in like a 7-8 month span that I just was trying to wrap my head around. And it was just a lot to handle. So as a man back then, you're talking 3 years ago, I wasn't at the place I'm at now, which is being able to articulate my feelings, being open and honest, setting my ego to the side, and just being vulnerable and transparent. And so what it looked like 3 years ago was me masking and not being fully honest with what I had going on, mainly what I was spending. So all this to say, it had built up some resentment, and I had been aware of the resentment. I want to say last year, I think, was the first time we ever even identified it as that word. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was last year.
I think deep down I knew that it was building up resentment. There was a part of me that was in denial about it for a while, and then there was a part of me that was ashamed of having resentment towards you.
Yeah.
Especially for that, because I felt like, isn't this what a marriage should be, is where like I'm supposed to pick up that slack, or like, and vice versa. Like there might be seasons where I don't have it and you have to pick it up, or vice versa. Right. But I felt like it was bigger than just you not having it. I felt like it was you did have it, you just didn't prioritize what I was prioritizing. Yeah. And I felt like I was getting essentially the short end of the stick.
For sure.
It.
Yeah. And so I think, like I said, last year was the first time I was aware that there was resentment there. Yeah, I knew some things had changed and you were sensitive about the financial topic and stuff, but I didn't know what the root of it all was. And so lately we've really been going through a interesting transition into a new season, and it's been difficult, like really, really challenging. And so come to find out, after me really sitting with a lot of this and trying to, is basically what I'm trying to say is, we had a disconnect moment, a pretty heavy disconnect for a while. I would say several weeks. And, there were moments where we felt good, and there was moments most of the time where we really didn't. We were both busy with all the stuff that we have going on. And it really hurt me. It made me really sad because I missed you. And so after making, some attempts and to try to get us back and to try to open up a dialogue about this, and, failure after failure, I ended up writing you a letter because I just had to get this out. I had to get this release, I guess a sense of release, and just to make you aware, because I didn't want to build up any type of resentment or angst or just, I didn't want to be separated more. And I know myself to know, like, I can close up and shut down and be like, fine, it's me against the world. Like childhood JD comes out. And so I'm like, let me just try something I've never really done before. It's a huge risk on my part, really laying out my entire heart on this letter. But, I don't know another way right now. I'm kind of out of suggestions. So I write the letter. You receive it really well.
Thinking about the letter, it just gets me so emotional.
Yeah.
But I feel like I really needed that letter.
Yeah. Yeah, it was necessary. And it was such a moment I knew that was either going to really bring us closer together or maybe the start of pulling us apart. And I think a lot of it was predicated on how you received it. You could have either gotten defensive and been in denial or angry about it, or you could have received it the way you did, which was with love and compassion and grace and accountability, which was so helpful.
Yeah, I think in my heart I knew what I was feeling. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of your feelings were valid.
Yeah.
It was just really hard to I guess read how you felt, because obviously like my intention was not to like make you feel like one of the things he said in the letter was he didn't know. I'm getting so emotional. I need tissue.
Okay.
Sorry guys, I'm a hot mess. This is very raw for us, by the way.
Yeah, we're like just in the beginning of it all, so bear with us.
One of the things he said in the letter was he didn't know. I can't even say that sentence. He didn't know where he fit into my life, and I think like in that moment alone, I was like, I never want my husband to not know where he fits in, because I want him to be by my side. And I knew in my heart, and I wasn't doing anything intentional. I think everything was very subconscious. And I think a part of why I was creating these bad patterns in our relationship, whether it was just like throwing myself entirely into work to avoid what I was feeling, or because I was ashamed of what I was feeling, I was subconsciously distancing myself from him. I wasn't including him in things. I was just moving at my own pace and my own rhythm. And he felt that. And I think that letter was like the start of like where I just knew I had to be honest with him. I had to be honest with myself.
Mm. Yeah, and just a little bit more context to add to help you guys understand what's going on. The reason why I said I didn't really know where to fit into Shay's life is she's really been throwing herself into now 2 careers that she has, and it's taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of time away from us, and it's really hard to accept, because I'm so happy for you and for your success. I've been, one of your biggest, if not the biggest cheerleader for you along your journey. But selfishly, I'm like, I miss my wife. I miss what we had, and it's HAD and not HAVE, because it kind of felt past tense. Like I kept seeing it getting further and further away. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't want to normalize this, because this is not what either of us signed up for, and it's not what either of us deserve. And so that's just wanted to bring that into the picture here. Is what I was meaning was like Shay was like a workaholic mode times 10, and I didn't really know how to fit into that. I also said, like, I kind of feel like I'm in your way of you achieving your career goals, and so, yeah, it was just hard. And, mind you, I'm also realizing that, the reason why she's going, times 10 with the work mode. And it's because we're trying to buy a house, right? And that's a lot of the stuff for me. It's like modeling is amazing. It's great, but there's very little in my control. And that's why I like the podcast stuff and the merch, and I'm coming out with a journal, and there's a lot of stuff happening, moving, consultation work. I'm trying to vamp everything up. We are trying to vamp everything up to purchase a home. And in California, these homes are no joke. And so it's a different financial game right now. And speaking of financial, it's hard for me to wrap my head around all of this, because I'm like, damn, I'm maybe a little bit out of my league here. Not to mention, I'm a recovering financial idiot, for lack of a better term. And so, the last 5 or 6 months, I've really stepped up my game financially and wrote a lot of things, a lot of ships differently with how I was moving with money. And I'm happy about that. But I knew, man, if I hadn't maybe been holding us back the way I was, maybe Shay didn't have to work as hard as she is. So I'm just like struggling with this internally, and you're struggling with your resentment towards me, towards the financials internally. And we just have these internal wars going on, and we're not communicating with each other. I remember one of our marital therapists early on told us one time, you never want to have the problem divide you. You never want to run in opposite ends of the direction away from the problem. You want to run towards the problem together. You want to tackle the problem together. And I think that letter might have been the bridge to tackling that together.
Definitely. I feel like before that, subconsciously, I was just trying to fill the gap on my own. Like I didn't have enough, I feel like my trust and my patience had completely exhausted by that point.
Yeah.
It had been something we were going through since early 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like the consistency of the change has barely started,
Yeah.
So I think although I'm trying to celebrate the win of the new cycle that we're in right now, and the new wave of growth that you have in regards to your finances, but I still had all this built up that I hadn't released, and I wasn't being honest with myself or him about.
Yeah.
So it trickled us into this vicious cycle, and when you allow a problem to divide you in the relationship, you could really get stuck in that negative dance with one another, that negative rhythm. And I feel like we were in that, and it was starting to be the new us and our new normal. And I am so grateful that he took the initiative to kind of highlight it and address it and write me the letter, because I feel like that was really what pulled me to the outside looking in. And as much as a lot of what I was doing was subconscious, through that letter, I was able to see, and because I already, knew a lot of that in my heart, I was just in denial and very ashamed. I couldn't admit it.
Mm-hmm.
So just hearing the words and reading the letter, when you told me you wrote a letter, I was afraid to read it, and it probably took me a day to read it. And
took you 2 days.
2 days to read it. And that's how much I didn't want to face the problem, because I think I knew what was going to be in that letter, and I was just so afraid to have to look at it.
Mm-hmm. What did you think was going to be in it?
Kind of that.
What
but
did
But honestly, I thought it was going to be the old Justin writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was afraid of. And when I read the letter, and it was this new, evolved, beautiful person writing this letter to me in the best ways for me to receive it, I was able to really process everything he said in the letter and receive it in the best ways. And look at myself in the mirror and acknowledge the truth of the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's right on par with trying to repair and not repeat. I remember feeling the feelings that I had, which were, a lot of them were old me, the way I would process things and the way I would take on things personally. And as I was typing, but as I was typing, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but it was very close to an out of body experience that I had. My fingers are just going and words are just going on to the screen, and I'm not even really consciously doing it, which to me translates to it was my heart just pouring out on this keyboard, and I almost couldn't stop. And when I finally did, I immediately felt this release. I immediately felt this like sense of this is the best possible thing I could have done. What's in my control, the number one thing. So you have control what's in your control on your shirt. Mine is you repeat what you don't repair. So you see, this is a lifestyle. This is not just some trend or some hashtag, some self-care Sunday bullshit. But this is real, and I'm just so happy.
Saturday.
Huh?
Today's Saturday.
Today's Saturday. Yeah, they don't know that. For them, it's Tuesday, but or maybe whenever you're watching this, but I do want to get into the moment that you were able to really accept that it was resentment. And I remember you were getting ready to go in the shower. I was getting dressed to head out. And I just remember vaguely, I mean, maybe you can add more details here, but I remember vaguely before you got in the shower and I was in the bathroom, you just came up to me and hugged me and were crying. And you were like, I don't want to resent you. I don't want to resent my partner. I don't want to resent my husband. Because I think we finally identified it in therapy.
Yeah.
Like a light bulb went off and it was like, I don't know who said it, me, you, or a therapist.
Me. No, it was after we hung up. I was, when you're just kind of listening, I was doing a lot of talking that day. And I was listening to myself talk, and I think at that point we were talking about, our work situation, and we both work from home. And I had talked about, my struggle with, I feel like it's really hard for me to get in a zone because I essentially don't really have an office space. And then I brought up how he does. And I just noticed that I was bringing up certain things that he has and I don't. And then it kind of reverts me back into the reason why we don't have a bigger house is because of his finances. But I'm the one, again, getting the short end of the stick of not having my own office space. Meanwhile, you do, So I was hearing myself say those things, and the feelings that were almost surfacing inside of me as I was saying those things. I knew it was almost like a pin was getting pinned on every aspect of that. And I think I hung up the call, and I think, or we hung up with our therapist, and I just sat for a second in those feelings. And it was after the letter situation. So I just felt like I don't know.
Like a light bulb.
Like a light bulb moment went off. And not only did I feel that go off, but I also felt like I had to tell him. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of I just felt ashamed. I felt guilty to feel resentment towards you. And it was really hard for me to express, but I felt like I needed to make sense of it for you, especially knowing that what you had been feeling the last few days. Because I feel like he mentioned, I've been really busy with 2 different careers, and as much as I can try to say I blame it on the fact that I'm just busy and I have 2 full-time jobs, I feel like you are also busy. You also have 2 podcasts. You model full time. You've been working on merch. You golf full time.
Well, consultations before golf. My clients know. My clients know.
He has his consultation business, but I never feel that he doesn't prioritize me because he includes me in everything. And I have a hard time doing that with him. Where he just more feels isolated, disconnected when I'm busy. I don't feel as disconnected from him when he has been busy. He's always found ways to include me. So I felt like as much as I wanted to blame it on the fact that I'm just busy, I'm sorry, I'm busy, I think it was more to that. And when I identified the resentment part, with resentment, you naturally will distance yourself from the person that you're resenting. And there's so many other things that probably come with resentment. And I just felt like so many light bulbs were coming off in that moment, where it was it was a sense of relief too, because it was like a weight lifted, like, oh, like I'm not just busy, I'm avoiding something.
Yeah.
So I came to you, I hugged you, and I was very emotional because it was a very hard thing for me to let alone process, but yeah, accept and admit to you, and be honest. And I do have to say, like, coming to somebody with the resentment that you're carrying because of them, not every single person will receive it in the way you hope them to.
Yeah.
And my hope was he was going to receive it in the best ways and offer me the space to validate my feelings, and you did exactly that. Like, you gave me that safe space. You lifted even more weight than I could ever imagine by not just giving me that space, but really extending the validation in it.
Yeah. One of the things I remember telling you in that moment of you trying to either get rid of this feeling or not fully live in the truth of it. Because you kept saying, I don't want to. And I was like, look, you need to feel this out. Like, you have to feel your feeling towards this to the max. I mean, we're here.
That was the space you gave me, but you also said you have rights to feel this way.
Yeah.
I've done this, that, and the other, and I don't blame you. And that was like exactly what I needed, that I didn't know I really needed, and didn't know that he could even be capable of offering that to me. And that it almost was an empowering feeling, like, where I felt immediately I 1000% will be able to get through this because of that moment.
Yeah, I was just thinking right now, I was putting myself back in that moment, and I wonder how many people listening or watching right now can relate to that one specific part. Just the ability to validate your feelings and why you could even have the resentment, and taking accountability and responsibility. How many people can relate to expressing their resentment towards their partner, or maybe even holding it in because you know that they wouldn't do that. You know that they wouldn't come correct. They wouldn't be able to hold a space. And it's hard for me because I just feel for those people. I can't imagine you feeling worse than you already did based on my ignorance or stubbornness or ego or selfishness. So I don't know. I felt the need to say that. So I just feel for all those people. If you're in a situation where your partner is not showing up for you and not creating a safe space with what you feel, especially if they're the ones who caused it. I feel for them.
Yeah, I think resentment in general could be a killer to a relationship for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have somebody who's obviously, through communication and everything, like, not every single other side of the
spectrum.
Is going to receive it in the ways that you want them to understand where you're coming from, validate your feelings, and help you through them. And I said to you, because I think you had a lot of doubt as to how much damage was already done and how much can I come out of the damage. Is it too much that is no coming back? There's no coming back. And you kind of asked me that. So had you not been the person that showed up in that moment where you offered that space and you validated my feelings and you made me feel okay for feeling those feelings, you lifted all that weight off me. If it would have been the opposite, I don't know that we would be able to come out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting though too is, like, I think the common saving grace of both of these situations, one, my letter to your resentment feeling, and how we showed up for each other on both ends. How you showed up for me when I wrote that letter, how I showed up for you when we finally identified and could admit and accept the resentment. If you received that letter, and again, a defensive, denial, anger way towards me, I don't know what would have happened, because it took every ounce of me to write that letter in the most wholeheartedly way possible. And if you would have just crumbled it up and threw it out the window, it would have been my heart you were throwing out the window. And I don't know how much I can come back from that. And I'm, as you just alluded to, and you know, if I didn't show up for you the way that I did. So, damn, man, I'm proud of us, babe.
I know.
Damn.
That's why I say, like, in our vows, like,
Man.
one of the best wedding advices or marriage advices that I got was never allow a problem to divide you, come between you, where it's like you guys are, it's creating that divide, but instead allow yourselves to join forces together and face that problem together. And I think, like, that is what we're doing with the resentment piece. That is what we did with the financial piece. And,
Yeah, I'm proud of us. I mean, we're still in it, right? We're still working through it. I think the biggest win to celebrate right now is the fact that we were able to be totally transparent with each other, completely honest, receive both very well, and are committed to working together to resolve this. Individually, you know, we have our different responsibilities to take care of, but then as a collective, as a marriage, as a partnership, we know what we have to do. And that's why I think it's so important to not only have these types of conversations on camera to hopefully help some people out, but also, and this is how transition, bring Lauren in here. I think it's also really a beautiful moment for us to acknowledge how amazing our support group is, our support system, our friend circle, our circle of friends. You know, you expressed to me that you opened up to Lauren about it a little bit, and then this beautiful conversation happened, and it was like, oh babe, I just talked to Lauren, it was great, I'm trying to remember everything she said. Oh man, I wish I could. And I was like, don't worry, let's do an episode and we can bring Lauren on, and hopefully I can, you know, piggyback off of what you guys talked about, and hopefully can help out the audience.
Yeah, resentment is one of those things that can creep up on you if you're not allowing yourself to be honest in the moment with your feelings, with yourself, with your partner. And that was something that I would have never thought would have been a problem for me. I thought, like, you know, day to day, I'm like, oh, I got it. I'm like handling it. And, you know, and I felt like as much
as you, sorry to cut you off, but as you were.
Yeah, I was like, as much space and patience
you were starting to normalize
I was
it.
having for him in all of the, you know, shit that we were going through in the financial spectrum. Like, I mean, even like something is like when we got Chicago, part of my reservation behind getting a dog too soon was, I'm like, I know what it's like to have a dog. I know what responsibility comes with that, whether it's like just physical responsibility, financial responsibility. And you always took the lead and never really listened to like what I felt was right at that time. And we kind of just went at your speed, at how you wanted it, when you wanted it, why you wanted it, all of that. And then, you know, fast forward to him getting injured, or, you know, all this, like him having doctor's appointments, I felt like I was taking on the majority of the burden of it. And I'm like, this is exactly why I had pushback.
Is there some resentment there then with that?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's collectively like a lot of things. I feel like even us moving in as quick as we did, you know, it's like I pushed on that. Like I pushed against it and you were pushing for it. And then I felt like our relationship wasn't ready. There was still so many things that we had to go through together. And I think if we lived together, it was just going to make it times 100. And that's exactly what happened. And then it was like, I felt a lot of that emotional distress in it, you know? And I feel like there could be resentment from that as well. So it's like these layers and layers that have just built up, and here we are. But I mean, there's no better time than now. It's not too late. And I think that we're, and you know, I feel like had I tried to bring this up sooner, maybe you wouldn't have had the tools to be able to offer the space that you did at that time. And maybe we would have had a completely different outcome. So I feel like in hindsight, it worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out for us.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, without further ado, should we welcome Lauren?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. Part 1 of 2 episodes. The next week's episode will obviously include Lauren, as I teased it at the very end there. To be completely honest, we actually filmed with Lauren, and while I was editing, I realized that this portion of what you just heard or what you just watched between Shay and I was so good. It was so raw and very heavy. So I just thought, you know what? Let me just let everyone have the rest of the day, have the rest of your night whenever you're listening to this, and just kind of process all that was said and try to dissect it and maybe relate to it. Also, the reason why I stopped it right now is because if I were to add Lauren's episode, you guys would be looking at about an hour and 30-minute episode, I think, which I know when you see that at first glance, it's very daunting. And it's like, oh, I'll watch it or listen to it later. And odds are you probably won't. So we're going to keep this week short and sweet. And I also just wanted to say, too, just going to ask for the community who's ever listening or watching to just give us some grace, Shay and I. You know, as we said in the episode, we are very early on with this whole discovering of the resentment, and it's really hard for us. It's heavy for us, and as you can see and as you heard, very emotional. So I just ask for some grace, and just that you receive it well. I know the comments sometimes can be otherwise. I'll just say that, and again, I just hope for the ones who do receive this well, you can also receive the raw vulnerability and transparency into our marriage. We definitely did not have to come on here in the public eye and let you in on a very personal situation that we're going through, but we just thought, you know what, we can't be the only ones. The whole purpose of the show is to help people, and I'm pretty confident this will help at least one couple. So, if not more, hopefully. So with that being said, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for all your support. I really hope you guys like the merch that you saw. If you're listening, maybe just hop on YouTube whenever you get a chance. I timestamp when the merch drop or when the merch is showcasing on the screen. So it's just a quick, easy click on that button. It'll take you right to it in the episode. And it's coming very soon. I'm really excited. And as I said in the episode, can't wait for you all to get your own piece, and really curious to see which one you choose between the 6 different styles and 6 different quotes. So from now until next week, again, we'll have Lauren on. She's going to really help us out and unpack some personal things between her and her husband and their marriage and what they went through when it comes to resentment, and really, really, really comes with it with some beautiful solutions and some great tools to apply. So again, from now until then, have a great rest of your weekend, whenever you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to it. Thank you for all the love and the support. And see you next time.